Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the screen in front of him. The cargo ship New Horizon had been moving through empty space for 3 weeks now, carrying supplies to the mining colony on Kepler 442b. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. Jake was 26 years old and had been working on cargo ships for 5 years. He liked the quiet of space even when it got lonely. The bridge was small and cramped. Captain Lisa Bennett sat in her chair, reading reports on her tablet. She was a good captain, fair but tough. The crew respected her. Dr. Amy Rogers was checking medical supplies in the corner. She was the ship's doctor and also worked as their science officer when needed. Bobby Kane, their engineer, was probably down in the engine room fixing something that did not really need fixing. He always found something to work on. Helen Cruz was at her navigation station, making sure they stayed on course. Jake was looking at the sensor readings when something strange appeared on his screen. It was a signal, weak but definitely there. He looked at it more carefully. It was not coming from any human ship or station. The pattern was completely different from anything he had seen before. "Captain?" Jake said, turning in his chair. Getting something weird on the sensors. Lisa looked up from her tablet. What kind of weird? A distress signal, but not from any human ship. The pattern is totally different. It's coming from the third moon around Kepler 442c. Lisa stood up and walked over to Jake's station. She looked at the readings on his screen. The signal was definitely there, pulsing in a rhythm that seemed almost musical. How far away? About 6 hours at our current speed. The signal is getting weaker, though. Whatever is sending it might not have much power left. Dr. Rogers came over to look at the screen, too. I've never seen anything like this pattern. It's definitely artificial, not natural. Lisa thought for a moment. The mining colony was expecting their supplies, but they were not in any emergency. This signal could be the first contact with alien life that humans had ever made. It could also be dangerous. Bobby, get up here. She called into the ship's communication system. Bobby appeared on the bridge a few minutes later, wiping his hands on a dirty cloth. What's going on? Jake showed him the signal. Bobby looked at it and whistled softly. That's not human tech. The energy patterns are completely different from anything we use. So what do we do? Helen asked from her station. We're supposed to deliver these supplies. Lisa looked at each member of her crew. They were good people, all of them. She trusted their judgment. Jake, what do you think? Jake looked at the signal again. It was definitely getting weaker. If it's a distress signal, someone or something is in trouble. We might be the only ship in this area for months. It could be a trap, Dr. Rogers said. We don't know anything about who sent it. True, Lisa said. But if it's really someone asking for help, and we ignore it, how are we going to feel about that later? Bobby nodded. The captain's right. We have to check it out. Lisa made her decision. Helen, change course for Kepler 442c. Jake, keep monitoring that signal. Everyone else, let's prepare for the unknown. The New Horizon changed direction and headed toward the signal. As they got closer, Jake could see that it was coming from the surface of a small, rocky moon. The moon had no atmosphere and was covered in strange purple and violet rock formations. It looked like an alien landscape from a science fiction movie. I'm getting visual contact, Jake said. There's something on the surface. It looks like a ship, but not like any ship I've ever seen. On the main screen, they could all see it. The ship was beautiful and strange at the same time. It was made of what looked like crystal or some kind of translucent metal. It was long and curved like a piece of art more than a spacecraft. But it was also clearly damaged. Parts of it were broken, and there was debris scattered around it. Take us down, Lisa ordered. Carefully. The New Horizon landed about 100 meters away from the crashed ship. Everyone put on their spacesuits and grabbed their equipment. Dr. Rogers brought her medical kit. Bobby brought tools in case they needed to cut through anything. Jake carried a scanner to check for life signs. As they walked across the rocky surface of the moon, Jake's scanner started beeping. I'm reading life signs, he said. Weak, but definitely there. Something is alive in that ship. The crashed ship was even more beautiful up close. The crystal-like material seemed to glow with its own inner light. There were patterns carved into the surface that looked like writing, but in no language any of them recognized. Bobby found what looked like an opening. It had been torn open when the ship crashed. "This way," he said. Inside, the ship was even stranger. Everything seemed to be made of the same glowing material. There were no sharp edges anywhere. Everything was curved and smooth. The walls seemed to pulse gently, like they were alive. Dr. Rogers was checking her scanner. "The life signs are coming from deeper inside the ship." This way, they followed a corridor that curved and twisted through the ship. The walls showed damage from the crash, but even the broken parts were beautiful. It was like walking through a work of art. They found her in what might have been the control room of the ship. She was lying on the floor, unconscious. At first glance she looked almost human, but there were differences. Her skin was pale and seemed to shine with a soft light. It changed colors slightly, shifting from blue to silver. Her hair was white and seemed to float around her head even though there was no wind. She was wearing clothes made of the same material as the ship. "She's alive," Dr. Rogers said, checking her scanner. Her vital signs are very weak." Jake knelt down next to the alien woman. Up close, he could see that she was injured. There was a wound on her side that was bleeding, but her blood was not red like human blood. It was silver blue and seemed to glow. "We need to get her back." "To the ship," Dr. Rogers said. "I need to examine her properly." They carefully carried the alien woman back to the New Horizon. Dr. Rogers worked on her in the medical bay while the others watched. The woman's condition was bad. She was losing blood fast, and Dr. Rogers could not figure out how to stop it. "Her physiology is completely different from ours," Dr. Rogers said. "Nothing I try seems to work. She's dying, and I don't know how to save her." Jake looked at the dying alien woman. She was beautiful, even unconscious. There was something about her that seemed noble, like she was someone important. "What if we try a blood transfusion?" he asked. Dr. Rogers shook her head. "We don't know if our blood is compatible with hers." "It could kill her faster. She's dying anyway," Jake said. "At least this way, we try something." Lisa looked at Jake. "It's dangerous. We don't know what could happen to you either." Jake had already made up his mind. "I can't just watch her die without trying to help." Dr. Rogers prepared the transfusion equipment. "This is completely experimental," she warned. "I have no idea what will happen." Jake lay down on the medical bed next to the alien woman. Dr. Rogers connected the tubes and started the transfusion. Jake's red blood began flowing into the alien woman's body, mixing with her silver blue blood. Almost immediately, something strange started happening. The wound on her side began to heal. The glow in her skin got brighter. But Jake also felt something changing inside him. There was a tingling sensation that started where the needle entered his arm and spread through his whole body. The alien woman's eyes opened. They were large and luminous, like stars. She looked at Jake and said something in a language he did not understand, but somehow he knew she was saying thank you. Then Jake felt something else. It was like a voice in his mind, but not his own voice. It was her voice, speaking directly into his thoughts. She was telling him her name, Zara, and she was telling him that he had just changed everything. Not just for her, but for all of humanity. Jake did not understand what she meant, but he could feel that something important had just happened. Something that could never be undone. Jake woke up feeling different. It had been 6 hours since the blood transfusion, and he could not shake the feeling that something inside him had changed. He was lying in the medical bay next to Zara, who was sleeping peacefully. Her wounds had completely healed, and her skin glowed softly in the dim light of the room. Dr. Rogers was running scans on both of them. She looked worried as she studied the results on her tablet. "Jake, I need you to look at this," she said. Jake sat up on the medical bed. He felt stronger than usual, more alert. His vision seemed sharper, and he could hear sounds from other parts of the ship that he had never noticed before. "What is it, Doc?" "Your blood work is showing some very strange changes. Your white blood cell count has increased by 300%. your brain activity is off the charts. And there are some structures in your blood that I've never seen. Before, Jake looked at the scanner readings. Even though he had no medical training, he could somehow understand what the numbers meant. It was like the information was being fed directly into his brain. That's not normal, is it? Not even close to normal. Jake, I think the transfusion did something to you, something big. Captain Lisa Bennett entered the medical bay. How are our patients doing? Zara is fine. Better than fine, actually. But Jake ... Dr. Rogers showed Lisa the scanner results. Lisa looked at the readings with concern. What does this mean? Before Dr. Rogers could answer, Zara opened her eyes. She sat up slowly and looked around the room. When her eyes met Jake's, he felt that strange connection again. It was like she was speaking directly into his mind. Thank you, Zara said out loud. Her voice was musical, with an accent unlike anything Jake had heard before. You saved my life. You're welcome, Jake replied. How? Do you feel? Much better. But I must tell you something important. What you did, giving me your blood, it has changed you. Your people call it DNA, yes? Your genetic structure has been awakened. Dr. Rogers stepped forward. Awakened to what? Zara looked at each of them carefully. I am Princess Zara of the Ethereal Dominion. My people have abilities that yours do, not yet possess. We can touch the energy that flows through all things. We can speak mind to mind. We can manipulate matter with our thoughts. Bobby Kane had entered the medical bay during Zara's explanation. You're saying you have magic powers? Not magic, evolution. Millions of years ago, there was a race called the Architects. They planted seeds in the genetic code of many species. Across the galaxy, most species never developed these abilities. But humans carry the strongest genetic markers we have ever seen. Jake felt a tingling in his hands. As he looked at them, he noticed they were glowing very faintly with the same light that came from Zara's skin. Is that why I feel so different? Yes, when our blood mixed, it activated the dormant genes in your system. You are becoming something new, Jake Morrison. Something your species has never seen before. Helen Cruz appeared in the doorway. Captain, we're getting some strange energy readings from the medical bay. Whatever is happening in here, the ship's sensors are picking it up. Jake stood up from the medical bed. As he did, he accidentally knocked over a metal tray with medical instruments. Without thinking, he reached out his hand to catch it. The tray stopped falling in midair, floating about 3 feet from the ground. Everyone in the room stared at the floating tray. Jake was concentrating on it, and he could feel some kind of energy flowing from his mind to the metal object. With a thought, he gently lowered the tray back onto the counter. Holy shit, Bobby whispered. Language, Captain Bennett said automatically, but her voice was full of amazement. Dr. Rogers was scanning Jake again with her handheld device. Jake, your brain activity just spiked to levels that should be impossible. And the energy readings from your body matched the signatures we detected from Zara's ship. Zara stood up and walked over to Jake. May I? She asked, holding out her hand. Jake took her hand in his. The moment their skin touched, his mind was flooded with images and information. He saw vast cities made of crystal floating in space. He saw beings like Zara flying through the air without any technology. He saw fleets of beautiful ships traveling between stars. But he also saw something darker. They're coming, Jake said, though he did not know where the words came from. Your people, they're coming to find you. Zara nodded sadly. Yes, and when they discover what has happened to you, they will be afraid. Afraid of what? Captain, Bennett asked. My people, the Ethereals, we gained our abilities through thousands of years of careful breeding and technological enhancement, but humans ... If humans can awaken these powers naturally, through something as simple as a blood transfusion, then you could become more powerful than we are. Jake was still holding Zara's hand, and through their connection he could see more images. He saw a great council of Ethereals making a decision. He saw warships preparing to leave their homeworld. He saw Earth small and blue and beautiful. Marked as a target, they want to destroy us, Jake said. Don't they? The High Council believes that humans are too dangerous to be allowed to develop these abilities. They see your species as chaotic and unpredictable. They fear what you might do with such power. Dr. Rogers was taking readings of both Jake and Zara. The energy field around both of you is growing stronger. And Jake, your cellular structure is continuing to change? Whatever this process is, it's not stopping. Jake let go of Zara's hand and walked to the small window in the medical bay. He could see the stars outside, but they looked different now, brighter, more detailed. It was like his eyes could see things that had been invisible before. How long do we have? Captain Bennett asked Zara. Not long. My ship sent out an emergency beacon when it crashed. The rescue fleet will follow that signal directly here. They will arrive in perhaps 10 of your days. Bobby shook his head. 10 days too. Get ready for an alien invasion. Great. Jake turned back to face the group. What if we run? We could warn Earth and try to hide. It would not matter, Zara said. Jake, you have become a beacon. The changes in your genetic structure create energy patterns that my people can detect. Across vast distances, wherever you go, they will be able to find you. So what do we do? Helen asked. Jake felt something stirring inside him, a confidence that had not been there before. We learn. If I'm changing into something new, then I need to understand what that means. Zara, will you teach me? I will try, but Jake, you must understand. The abilities you are developing may be different from ours. Stronger, perhaps, but also more unpredictable. I do not know what you might become. Dr. Rogers looked at her scanner readings again. Whatever he's becoming, it's happening fast. Jake, I'm reading changes in your brain, your nervous system, your entire cellular structure. This is evolution. In real time, Captain Bennett made a decision. Helen, set course for Earth. Maximum speed. We need to warn them what's coming. And Jake, she continued, you need to figure out what these new abilities can do. If Zara's people are coming to Earth because of you, then maybe you're also Earth's best chance to survive. Jake nodded. He could feel the power growing inside. Changing him into something he did not yet understand. But he also felt a responsibility. His simple act of kindness in trying to save Zara's life had put all of humanity in danger. Now it was up to him to find a way to protect his species. Let's get started, he said. The tray on the counter began. T.O. glowed softly, responding to his emotions. Jake was no longer entirely human, and the universe would never be the same. The new horizon was racing toward Earth at maximum speed, but Jake knew it would not be fast enough. Every hour that passed, he could feel his abilities growing stronger and more unpredictable. Simple things like walking through the ship had become challenges because doors would sometimes open before he touched them, and lights would flicker when he was angry or frustrated. Zara was teaching him as much as she could, but even she seemed surprised by how quickly he was changing. They spent hours in the cargo bay, away from the sensitive ship equipment, practicing basic control exercises. Focus on the energy inside you, Zara said, standing across from him in the empty cargo space. Feel it flowing through your body like water in a river. Do not try to force it. Guide it gently. Jake closed his eyes and tried to sense what she was talking about. At first, there was nothing. Then slowly he began to feel something warm moving through his chest and arms. It was like electricity, but alive somehow. I can feel it, he said. But it feels different than what you described before. That is because you are different than my people. We learned to use these abilities through centuries of training and discipline. But your mind works in ways ours do not. Jake opened his eyes and looked at a small metal box sitting on the floor about 10 feet away. He had been trying to move it with his thoughts for the past hour, but it had not budged. This time, instead of concentrating hard like Zara had taught him, he simply imagined reaching out and picking it up with his hand. The box lifted smoothly into the air and floated toward him. When it reached his hand, he caught it easily. Fascinating, Zara said. You moved it by thinking of it as a physical action instead of a mental one. My people would never think to try that approach. Dr. Rogers entered the cargo bay carrying her scanner. Jake, I need to take some more readings. The energy signatures coming from you are getting stronger every hour. How much stronger? Jake asked, setting the metal box back down. Strong enough that I'm worried about what might happen if this continues. Yesterday, your energy output was barely detectable. Now it's reading at levels that match some of our ship's main systems. Captain Bennett's voice came over the ship's communication system. All hands to the bridge. We have a situation. Jake, Zara, and Dr. Rogers hurried to the bridge. Helen was at her navigation station looking worried. Bobby was checking his engineering displays with a frown on his face. What's the problem? Jake asked. Helen pointed at her screen. We're being followed. 3 ships, moving fast and gaining on us. Jake looked at the display. The ships showed up as bright dots on the radar, but they were moving at speeds that should have been impossible. How fast are they going? Twice as fast as our maximum speed, Helen said. They'll catch us in about 6 hours. Zara looked at the readings and her face went pale. Those are ethereal scout ships. They found us much sooner than I expected. Can we fight them? Bobby asked. With what? Captain Bennett replied. We're a cargo ship. We have 1 small defensive laser and some basic shields. These ships are military. Jake studied the display. Through his growing connection with the ship's systems, he could sense more about the approaching vessels than the scanners were showing. They were not just fast and well-armed. They carried some kind of energy that felt familiar to him. They're not here to capture us, Jake said. They're here to destroy us. How do you know that? Dr. Rogers asked. I can feel their intentions somehow. They're afraid. Whatever I'm becoming, it scares them enough that they would rather kill us all than let me continue to develop. Zara nodded sadly. I feared this would happen. My people can be wise, but they are also cautious to the point of paranoia. They would rather eliminate a potential threat than risk being wrong about it. Captain Bennett made a decision. Helen, take us toward the asteroid belt near Jupiter. Maybe we can lose them in there. Captain, that's incredibly dangerous, Helen protested. The asteroids in that region are huge and moving unpredictably. Less dangerous than fighting 3 military ships with a cargo hauler. The New Horizon changed course toward Jupiter. Behind them, the 3 ethereal ships continued to gain ground. Jake could feel them getting closer, like a pressure building in the back of his mind. There's something else, Jake said. I think I can interface with their ships somehow. When they get close enough, I might be able to affect their systems. Interface how? Bobby asked. I'm not sure. But when I touch our ship's controls, I can sense the electronic systems. I can feel the data flowing through the circuits. If ethereal ships use similar technology, maybe I can do something to slow them down. That sounds very dangerous, Zara warned. Ethereal ship systems are protected by security measures that could damage your mind if you encounter them. Do we have any other choice? Jake asked. Captain Bennett looked at each member of her crew. They were good people who had signed up for a routine cargo run, not an interstellar incident that could lead to war. Jake, I won't order you to take that risk. It has to be your choice. Jake could feel the pursuing ships getting closer. In a few hours, they would be in weapons range. Then it would be over, not just for the crew of the New Horizon, but potentially for all of humanity. If these ships killed him before he could learn to control his abilities, Earth would be defenseless. When the main ethereal fleet arrived, I'll try, he said. The next few hours passed in tense silence. The New Horizon reached the asteroid belt and began weaving between massive chunks of rock and ice. Helen was an excellent pilot, but the asteroids made navigation extremely difficult. Behind them, the ethereal ships had no trouble matching their course. They're in weapons range, Helen reported. Energy signatures are spiking on all 3 ships. Jake went to the main control console and placed his hands on the interface panel. Immediately, he could feel the ship's systems responding to his touch. The sensors became like extensions of his own senses. The engines felt like muscles he could flex. The ship's computer felt like a second brain working alongside his own. I can see them clearly now, Jake said. Their ships are beautiful. They're alive somehow, not just machines. Ethereal ships are grown, not built, Zara explained. They are part technology, part living organism. Through the ship's sensors, Jake reached out toward the approaching ethereal vessels. At first, there was resistance, like trying to push through a thick wall. Then suddenly he broke through. The sensation was overwhelming. Jake was suddenly connected to all three ships at once. He could feel their crews, beings like Zara, but colder somehow, more distant. He could sense their fear and their determination to complete their mission, but he could also feel their ship's systems. And those systems were not as different from human technology as he had expected. They used energy and data and electronic pathways, just like the New Horizon did. I'm in, Jake said. I can feel their weapons charging. The lead ethereal ship fired. A beam of pure energy lanced out toward the New Horizon, but Jake was ready. Through his connection to their ship, he redirected the energy beam. Instead of hitting the New Horizon, it struck a nearby asteroid, vaporizing it in a brilliant flash. The ethereal crews were confused and alarmed. Their weapons had never malfunctioned like that before. They tried to fire again, but Jake turned their energy back on them. Not to destroy them, but to disable their weapon systems. Their weapons are offline, Jake reported. But I can't hold this connection much longer. It's taking everything I have. That's enough, Captain Bennett said. Helen, get us out of here. Maximum speed. The New Horizon shot out of the asteroid belt, leaving the disabled ethereal ships behind. Jake collapsed from the strain of maintaining the connection to their systems. Dr. Rogers quickly checked his vital signs. He's exhausted but stable, she reported. Jake, what you just did should have been impossible. You completely took over their weapon systems from another ship. Jake was breathing heavily, but he felt proud of what he had accomplished. I didn't destroy them. I just stopped them from destroying us. Zara looked at him with something like awe in her large eyes. Jake, what you did. My people have spent thousands of years developing our abilities, and none of us could have done. What you just did? You are becoming something entirely new? Good, Jake said, struggling to sit up. Because I have a feeling we're going to need every advantage we can get. The New Horizon continued toward Earth, but Jake knew this was just the beginning. The ethereal scouts would report what had happened, and the main fleet would be even more determined to stop him. But for the first time since this all began, Jake felt like maybe humanity had a chance. Earth appeared on the main screen like a blue jewel floating in the darkness of space. Jake had seen images of his home planet countless times, but now it looked different to his enhanced vision. He could see energy patterns swirling around the planet that he had never noticed before. Strange geometric shapes seemed to be hidden in the atmosphere, invisible to normal eyes but clear as day to him. There's something around Earth, Jake said, pointing at the screen. Some kind of structure that's not showing up on our normal sensors. Captain Bennett looked at the display. I don't see anything unusual. Neither do I, Dr. Rogers added. The scanners are reading normal atmospheric conditions. Zara moved closer to the screen and her eyes grew wide. Jake, describe what you see. Lines of energy like a grid covering the whole planet. And there are points where the lines cross that look like they might be some kind of technology. It's all invisible, but it's definitely there. Architect technology, Zara whispered. Jake, you are seeing the ancient defenses that were placed around your world millions of years ago. Bobby looked confused. Ancient defenses? Placed by who? The architects I told you about before. They were the first species to develop the abilities that my people now possess. Before they transcended physical existence, they seeded many worlds with their technology. But I have never heard of any planet having defenses this extensive. Jake studied the energy patterns more carefully. As he concentrated, he began to understand what he was looking at. The grid was not just around Earth, it extended deep into the planet itself. Mountains, oceans, even the planet's core seemed to be part of a vast system that had been waiting dormant for millions of years. It's not just defenses, Jake said. It's like the whole planet is a machine that's been turned off. And I think I might be able to turn it on. Helen looked up from her navigation station. We're getting a communication from Earth Defense Command. They want to know why we changed course from the mining colony. Captain Bennett activated the communication. System, Earth Defense Command, this is Captain Lisa Bennett of the cargo ship New Horizon. We have an emergency situation that requires immediate attention from the highest levels of command. The voice that came back was crisp and professional. New Horizon, this is Admiral Richard Stone. State the nature of your emergency. Admiral, we have made first contact with an alien species. We also have a crew member who has undergone some kind of genetic transformation. We need to speak with you in person immediately. There was a long pause before the Admiral responded. New Horizon, you are cleared for immediate landing at Luna Base. A security team will meet you upon arrival. Do not attempt to land on Earth until you have been cleared by our medical and security personnel. Understood, Admiral. Jake felt a strange sensation as they approached Luna Base. The same energy he had been sensing around Earth was present here too, but weaker. As if the moon was connected to Earth's hidden systems, but not as directly, they landed at Luna Base and were immediately surrounded by security personnel in full combat armor. Admiral Stone was a tall, serious man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He looked like someone who had been preparing for this moment his entire career. Captain Bennett, I need you and your crew to submit to full medical examination before we proceed. And I understand you have an alien passenger? Zara stepped forward. I am Princess Zara of the Ethereal Dominion. I come seeking help for both our species. Admiral Stone stared at Zara for a long moment. Well, I'll be damned. First contact with an alien species and she's royalty. This day just keeps getting more interesting. Dr. Rogers spent the next several hours explaining Jake's transformation to the Earth Defense Force medical team. Jake submitted to every test they wanted to run, but he could tell they were having trouble understanding what they were seeing. His genetic structure has been completely rewritten, one of the Earth doctors told Admiral Stone. But it's not random. It's like someone took human DNA and upgraded it with a more advanced template. Meanwhile, Zara was explaining the situation to Admiral Stone and his advisors. The Ethereal High Council has decided that humanity represents a threat to galactic stability. They are sending a fleet to eliminate your species before you can develop the abilities that Jake now possesses. How many ships? Admiral Stone asked. 300 warships plus support vessels. They will arrive in approximately 4 Earth days. Admiral Stone's face went pale. Captain, our entire space fleet consists of 50 ships, and most of those are exploratory vessels with minimal weapons. We can't fight a war against a superior alien civilization. Jake had been listening to the conversation while the doctors ran their tests. Admiral, I don't think we're supposed to fight them with ships. I think Earth has its own defenses, but they need to be activated. What kind of defenses? Jake explained what he had seen when they approached Earth, the energy grid, the hidden technology, the sense that the entire planet was a dormant system waiting to be awakened. That sounds like science fiction, one of Admiral Stone's advisors said. So did alien contact until about 6 hours ago, Admiral Stone replied. Jake, do you think you can activate these defenses? I'm not sure, but I think I'm changing into something that can interface with architect technology. Zara says her people gained their abilities through thousands of years of breeding and training. But humans apparently have the genetic potential to develop the same abilities naturally. The blood transfusion, Dr. Rogers said. When Jake's blood mixed with Zara's, it triggered dormant genes in his system. Admiral Stone thought for a moment. If Jake is the key to activating Earth's defenses, then we need to get him to the planet's surface as soon as possible. There's something else, Zara said quietly. The abilities that Jake is developing may not stop with him. When an ethereal shares their genetic material with someone, it can sometimes be passed on to others through physical contact. Jake looked at his hands. The faint glow that had started after the transfusion was getting brighter. You mean I could share these abilities with other humans? It is possible, but it would be dangerous. The transformation process is difficult, and not everyone would survive it. Admiral Stone made a decision. We need to prepare for both possibilities. Jake, I want you to try to activate whatever defenses Earth has. At the same time, we'll prepare our fleet for battle. If the defenses don't work, we'll have to fight with what we have. The trip from Luna Base to Earth took 6 hours. During that time, Jake continued to change. His ability to sense electronic systems had expanded to include biological systems as well. He could feel the life signs of everyone on the ship without using any instruments. He could sense their emotions, their thoughts, even their dreams. When Earth came into view again, Jake could see the energy grid more clearly than before. It was beautiful and complex, covering the entire planet in a web of power that connected every mountain, every ocean, every continent. And at the center of it all, he could sense something vast and ancient waiting to be awakened. I can feel it, Jake said as they entered Earth's atmosphere. There's something down there that's been sleeping for millions of years, and I think it's been waiting for someone like me to wake it up. The ship landed at Earth Defense Command headquarters in Colorado. As soon as Jake stepped onto the ground, he felt a connection to the planet itself. It was like touching a sleeping giant that was beginning to stir. Jake, Admiral Stone said, whatever you're going to do it fast. Our long-range sensors just detected the ethereal fleet. They've entered our solar system. Jake knelt down and placed his hands on the ground. Immediately, he could feel the vast network of architect technology that lay hidden beneath the Earth's surface. It was more complex and powerful than anything he had imagined, and it was responding to his touch. I can feel it waking up, Jake said. The whole planet is coming alive. Above them, the first ethereal ships appeared in Earth's sky, but Jake was no longer worried. He could sense the true scope of what the architects had left behind, and he knew that the ethereals had no idea what they were about to face. The real battle was about to begin, but this time humanity would not be fighting alone. The moment Jake touched the ground, everything changed. Energy flowed up through his hands and into his body, connecting him to a network that spanned the entire planet. He could feel every mountain, every ocean, every continent as if they were parts of his own body. The architect technology that had been sleeping for millions of years was finally awakening. Above them, the ethereal fleet filled the sky. 300 ships arranged in perfect formation, their crystal hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Admiral Stone was coordinating Earth's defensive fleet from the command center, but everyone knew 50 human ships could not hope to defeat such a force. Jake, whatever you're doing, do it now, Admiral Stone said into his radio. They're charging their weapons. Jake could feel the ethereal ships through the planet's sensor network. High Executor Valethus, the commander of the fleet, was broadcasting a message toward Earth's surface. Jake could understand every word through his connection to the planetary systems. Humans of Earth, the message said, you harbor a dangerous individual who threatens the stability of our galaxy. Surrender him to us immediately, or your planet will be cleansed of all life. They want me, Jake said, opening his eyes. They're willing to destroy everyone just to stop me from developing these abilities. Dr. Rogers was scanning Jake with her instruments. Jake, the energy readings from your body are incredible. You're connected to power sources all over the planet. It's not just power, Jake said. It's consciousness. The architects didn't just leave technology behind. They left part of themselves. And it's been waiting for someone who could interface with it properly. Zara knelt down beside Jake. The transformation in you has accelerated beyond anything I thought possible. You are becoming something that exists partially in this dimension and partially in others. The first wave of ethereal ships began their attack. Energy beams lanced down from space toward Earth's major cities. But as the beams struck the atmosphere, something impossible happened. The energy was absorbed and redirected by invisible barriers that surrounded the planet. What the hell was that? Admiral Stone shouted from the command center. The aurora, Jake said. The northern and southern lights aren't natural phenomena. They're part of Earth's defense grid. The architects used the planet's magnetic field. As a shield generator, the ethereal fleet was confused. Their weapons, which could destroy entire moons, were being neutralized by Earth's atmosphere itself. High Executor Valethus ordered a second wave of attacks, but these two were absorbed and redirected harmlessly into space. Jake stood up, still maintaining his connection to the planetary network. He could feel the full scope of what the architects had built. Every mountain range was a massive energy accumulator. Every ocean current was a power distribution system. The Earth's core itself was a fusion reactor that had been providing energy to the defense grid for millions of years. They built the ultimate fortress, Jake said in amazement. They turned the entire planet into a defensive weapon. But Jake could also sense something else. The ethereal ships weren't just trying to attack Earth's surface. They were scanning the planet, trying to understand how the defenses worked. And Valethus was preparing to use a weapon that could destroy the planet entirely rather than let the architect technology fall into human hands. They're going to try to crack the planet open, Jake warned. Their flagship has some kind of planet-killer weapon. Can the defenses stop it? Admiral Stone asked. Jake reached deeper into the planetary network, trying to understand the full capabilities of the architect systems. What he found was beyond his wildest imagination. The defenses weren't just shields and energy absorbers. They were transformation devices. The architects didn't just want to protect Earth, Jake realized. They wanted to evolve whoever lived here when the time was right. Jake made a decision that would change everything. Instead of using the planetary defenses to destroy the ethereal fleet, he chose a different path. Through the global network, he began broadcasting a transformation signal to every human on Earth. The effect was immediate. All over the planet, humans began to feel the same tingling sensation that Jake had experienced during his blood transfusion with Zara. But this time, the transformation was gentler, guided by the architect systems to ensure that everyone could survive the process. Dr. Rogers watched her scanner in amazement as energy readings spiked all over the planet. Jake, what are you doing? Sharing, Jake said. The ethereals are afraid of what one transformed human might do. Let's show them what 8 billion transformed humans can do. Within minutes, humans all over Earth were developing the same abilities that Jake possessed. They could sense each other's thoughts and emotions. They could manipulate energy and matter with their minds. Most importantly, they could interface with the architect technology that surrounded them. The transformation wasn't limited to Earth. Jake used the planetary network to reach out to the human colonists on Mars, the Moon, and the mining stations throughout the solar system. Every human in space felt the change as their dormant genetic potential was awakened. High Executor Valethus realized what was happening and ordered his fleet to fire their planet-killer weapon immediately. The massive energy beam lanced down from the flagship toward Earth's surface. But it never reached the ground. Millions of transformed humans, working together through their shared consciousness, redirected the weapon's energy. Instead of destroying Earth, the beam was absorbed and converted into pure creative force. The energy flowed through the planetary network and out into space, surrounding the ethereal fleet. But Jake wasn't using the energy to destroy the ships. Instead, he was offering the same gift to the ethereals that he had received. The transformation energy washed over their fleet, offering every being aboard the choice to evolve beyond their current limitations. Many of the ethereals, especially the younger ones who had questioned their society's rigid structure, accepted the gift. They felt their consciousness expand and their abilities grow beyond what they had thought possible. But more importantly, they felt a connection to the humans and to each other that made the idea of warfare seem absurd. Zara, still connected to Jake through their original bond, reached out to the ethereal fleet. "My people," she broadcast, "we have found something wonderful here. These humans offer us not conquest, but partnership. Not domination, but understanding." High Executor Valethus and the older ethereals who had refused the transformation found themselves facing a new reality. Half of their own fleet had joined with the humans in a collective consciousness that valued cooperation over control. Their weapons could not function when their own crews refused to fire them. "This is not how wars are supposed to end," Admiral Stone said, watching the readings from space as ethereal and human ships began working together. "Maybe that's the point," Jake replied. The architects weren't just preparing Earth's defenses. They were preparing humanity to be teachers. Over the following days, the transformation continued to spread. Ethereals and humans learned from each other, sharing knowledge and abilities that neither species could have developed alone. The rigid hierarchy of ethereal society began to dissolve as individuals gained the freedom to think and feel beyond their assigned roles. Jake found himself at the center of a new kind of civilization. He was no longer just human, but he wasn't entirely ethereal either. He had become something new, a bridge between species and dimensions. Through his connection to the planetary network, he could help guide the transformation process for anyone who chose to undergo it. Zara worked beside him, helping to establish communication protocols between the different species that were now joining the growing collective consciousness. "When I crashed on that moon," she told Jake, "I thought I was dying. I never imagined I was about to witness the birth of a new form of life." Dr. Rogers documented the changes in human physiology as millions of people adapted to their new abilities. "It's not just evolution," she reported. "It's conscious evolution. People can choose how much to change, and in what ways." Captain Bennett and her crew found themselves appointed as ambassadors to the growing galactic community. Their simple cargo ship had become the most famous vessel in human history, the place where everything had changed. Bobby Kane worked with ethereal engineers to develop new technologies that combined the best of both civilizations. Helen Cruz navigated the first joint human-ethereal exploration missions to other star systems. They discovered that the architects had seeded many worlds with similar technology, all waiting for species mature enough to use it wisely. Jake often thought about that moment when he had offered his blood to save a dying alien princess. It had seemed like such a simple act of kindness, but it had unleashed something truly unimaginable. Not just power, but the possibility that different species could become something greater together than they ever could apart. The universe, it turned out, had been waiting for someone brave enough to help a stranger, regardless of the consequences. And in doing so, humanity had proven itself ready for the greatest adventure of all.